veut commencer? Bon, on commence maintenant. Je vous demanderai de prendre une minute pour m'écouter. Ça va? Plus ou moins? Ça va aller mal? Ça va? Oui? On ajuste. Bon, c'est bien ça. Parfait. Ça va, Christian, j'y vais? Bonjour tout le monde. Bienvenue au troisième mardi. C'est le premier troisième mardi depuis un bon bout de temps, là. On a pris le temps de s'organiser, de restructurer un petit peu. Alors, merci de votre patience si vous attendez depuis quelques mois. Et bienvenue à ceux qui viennent parmi nous pour la première fois. Vous êtes chez Troisième Mardi. Vous allez voir derrière vous à l'écran les hashtags de ce soir. Alors, si vous êtes sur Twitter, je vous inviterai à en prendre connaissance. Et après 10 secondes, en principe, on devrait voir paraître à l'écran, mais je ne les vois pas, les logos de nos commanditaires. On a 3 nouveaux commanditaires cette année. On a Thornley Fallis. Joe Thornley est ici présentement. Joe, il est là, derrière. Bonjour. Merci à Thornley Fallis. Merci aussi à HKDP, mon agence. C'est bien de voir appuyer ces projets. Et finalement, merci beaucoup à Energy PR, les 3 agences se sont joints pour nous offrir une série en 2011. Et ça nous permettra de vous offrir 3 événements cette année et avec l'arrivée de nouveaux commanditaires, on espère bien au moins un 4e. Alors, merci à vous tous. Et je vais passer le micro à Mitch Joel, qui est membre de notre comité fondateur. Il était là au tout début. You were there at the very beginning for Third Tuesdays, so thanks for that. Qui va nous présenter CC Chapman. La façon que ça va fonctionner ce soir, on sait que ce n'est pas toujours évident avec le micro. Le micro est là pour les gens à la maison. On va faire les choses peut-être un peu différemment. J'apprends à Christian à l'instant. Mais au lieu de se passer le micro dans la salle, Sissi va tenter de répéter au moins ou de résumer la question avant d'y répondre. Alors, on va essayer de procéder de cette façon-là. Ça devrait nous permettre d'être un peu encore plus dynamique dans la salle. So, Mitch, I'm passing the mic to you. Thanks very much.
Hey, everyone. Oh, yes, please. Thank you. So you are in for a very, very, very special treat tonight. Many years ago, 7 years ago, I thought about having a podcast. And I really had no clue what to do. And everyone was like, you need to speak to CC Chapman. And, you know, when you fast forward 7 years and you think about the amazing success CC's had in terms of his new book, which is out, called Content Rules, which if you don't have, you should get, that he co-authored with Ann Handley from Marketing Profs. And you think about him being known as like a blogger and this guy on Twitter, what a lot of people don't know is that he was really at the early beginnings of podcasting. How early? 2004. I mean, really in the time when people didn't even know, like they were using like chicken wire and Band-Aids and gum to put all the stuff together to make it work, like really MacGyver. CC was the guy that people were going to figure this all out. And over the years, he's really become established as a serious marketing communications professional. From working in Babson College, you went on to do stuff with, I guess it was Crayon at the time, Joe Jaffe. And then he went on to work at Campfire. Actually, he had his own company, which he sold to Campfire, which Campfire is, you know, transmedia, really well-known agency. And he's just one of those guys who just seems to know where trends are going and how things are working. The funny thing was, on the way into my office this morning, I was thinking that, I don't know, this whole community management thing is like the whole buzzword. And I really think we're going to move away from like social media strategists and gurus. But I think that the idea of content as like a chief content officer or a head of content or content strategy is the next thing. And I sort of laughed to myself thinking, oh yeah, CC just wrote a book on that. Of course it's where we're going. It makes perfect sense, right? So you really are in for a very special treat. We're happy to have him up here all the way from Boston. So please give a warm Montreal bilingual welcome to CC Chapman.
This okay? This working? All right, we're not gonna have, ooh, wow. I can't just yell, that's not okay? Is that better?
You can yell in French.
Yeah, I can yell in French. No. Yeah, I understand this much of French, so I have no idea what she said, except that I'm going to repeat the questions. We are going out over live stream, I guess. So if you're tagging anything on Twitter, those are the hashtags. Please interrupt me. Please ask questions. Please yell. It's okay. I'm all down with that. This is very informal. I was told it was going to be informal, so I'm cool with that. Are you okay with the audio? In the back. We all right? All right, cool. Yeah, so first thing, I have to thank you guys for having me up here. It's really exciting to be in Canada. Yes, I had like 4 people comment that I know how to dress for warmth. Guys, New England, we get cold. We had 18 inches of snow the other day. It's okay. This is nothing. This is fine. Granted, I was in Orlando last week, so this is cold. It was 33 degrees Fahrenheit there the other day. They were frozen. It was fun. Yeah, so tonight, Content Rules just came out. It's really exciting to have a book out. It's a lot of work. If you didn't know, Bob's working on a book right now. He's learning how hard it is to write a book. I'm holding him accountable to that, and he's going to kill me now because he said, I want to write a book. I said, cool, I'll write the foreword. Let's get going on it. So get working on it, Bob. It's a lot of fun. There's some other great authors in the room I know. I know Tara's up here. I don't know who else has got a book, but there's other people. Anybody else in here written a book? Mitch has written a book. Great book. All right, see, there's a few authors in here. It's a lot of work, right? But it's worth it. It's the most rewarding thing in the world. And you mean you're not rolling in royalty checks from writing the book? I mean, come on. It pays. I figured out the other day, I get like 2.3 cents per copy of the book sold. So, yeah, go in 10 years, right. So go buy lots of copies of it so I can, feed my kids a candy bar. It'd be great. No, I'm excited. Yeah, so I live in Boston. I run a website called Digital Dads. I've been podcasting way too long. I used to do a podcast called Accident Hash. There's rumors I might still be doing it. I don't know. I haven't done one since July. Yeah! Who was that? Is there a home fry in the house? Old school. Cool. Maybe that was Mitch. I don't know. Okay, it was? All right. See, Mitch comes across all cool and professional, but he's a rocker at heart. We all know that. I hope you guys know that if you don't know that. It's fun because right now, and I have to give a huge thanks to Canada because we kicked off the book tour in Ottawa. And by the end of this week, I will have spoken in more cities in Canada than I have in the U.S. So big props to you guys. It's so funny. Someone was giving me a hard time saying, why are you going to Canada? And I said, because they asked me to. It's a novel concept. So it's not rocket science, but I'm excited because I get to see parts of Canada I've never been to, and thanks to Third Tuesday for making that happen. What I want to talk to you guys about is that, it was kind of funny. So Anne, I hope you're watching Anne Hanley, she goes by Marketing Profs on Twitter, asked me to write this book with her. And it was funny because when she came to me, she said, Cece, I got this book on content. I want you to write it with me. And I said, well, does anybody really need a book on content? I mean, content is not rocket science, right? I mean, I always talk about the fact when we were little kids, everybody in this room made content when they were little. We didn't call it content. We didn't think about it. We didn't think about, is anybody going to look at it? We didn't think about, how's this SEO going to play with this, and is it going to get hits and views? We did it because it was fun, right? I mean, anybody who has kids, you give them crayons or paper or junk or anything, and they will make stuff out of it. And at some point, we forgot about the fun part of content. All the time I get asked about, well, Cece, should I blog when I have something to say, or should I blog every day? Or, how can I get more hits to my video? And it's not, I literally say, make sure you have something to say. Make sure you're saying it. Make sure that when you do it, you're evoking an emotion. I mean, I'm a passionate guy. I talk really fast. I get really into this stuff. I'll probably swear before this is done, so if I offend anybody, I'm sorry.
You won't be the first, so don't worry
There
about
goes
it.
Mitch. Hell yeah. There, I got it out of the way. I got the easy swear out of the way. I'll drop the F-bomb later just for you, Kat. Oh, another old school podcaster here. Is there any old school podcasters here? 2005? Because I know me and Bob are doing 2004 clubs. Are there any podcasters here at all? Does anybody create podcasts anymore? Wow. And yet, you know what's funny? It's on the title of the book, which I hated. I actually kind of wanted it not to be there. And we turned in the manuscript, and we realized we didn't have a podcasting chapter. Anne's like, Cece, you got to write the podcasting chapter because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. All right, so nobody podcasts in this room. Okay, what do we create in this room? Video? Are there video people? Blogging? All right, why the rest of you here? There's still like 40% of you that don't do anything. Why are you here? Why are you here? I'm looking at you. Yeah, you. To learn? Okay, that's cool.
PR people, they're always late.
Ah, okay. Ooh. A PR company brought me here. I'm not going to repeat that one. All right, I was just trying to figure out where you guys are. Okay. So you're here to learn. Well, the trick to all content, honestly, is figure out what you enjoy doing and create it. Just have fun doing it. One of our rules, we have 11 rules in the book, and it's so funny because we always put rules in quote marks. Because let's face it, the rules are pretty simple. We have things like play to your strengths, be human, solve, don't shill. Our publisher didn't want us to put in the be human rule, and I think it's the one rule that if anybody needs to learn, it's usually the PR and the marketing firms. I'm sorry. I worked for a marketing agency. I started one, I know. Speak from your heart. Act like a human. I guarantee you your customers are human no matter what business you work in. I did have a guy yell at me in Portland. He's like, well, we sell robotics. And I was like, shut up, dude. He literally stopped me afterwards and said, well, the rule doesn't apply. And I said, okay, you are way too serious about this. But the fact of the matter is that why can't companies speak from the heart? Why can't a company not speak in PR lingo, legal speak, buzzwords, and all that stuff? We actually have 18 words in the book that we want banned from the world. And then we actually went back and I'm still waiting. No one's caught one in the book yet. Because it's words like synergy and all these other, you hate that word? Yeah. Down with synergy. Synergy sucks. I'm with you. Yeah, that's going to be the only quote that comes out of this whole thing. CC says synergy sucks. 3TT, right? No, but ROI is important. I mean, yeah, return. Yeah, but what's real fun about ROI is when people now are changing it. Return on engagement. They're adding different letters, or they're playing on it and there was one I saw the other day. Another great blog post. Yeah, so good I can't even remember it. Scott Stratton, the author of the great book on marketing. If you haven't read it, please buy his book. Don't buy mine. Literally, great book. He talks about meh content. Nobody shares meh. You never ever went, dude, you got to see this post. It's really fun. There you go. It's okay. No, you get really excited about something. Seriously, read Scott's book. I love his book. It's one of the best written from the heart books I've seen out there, and Scott knows his stuff. But one of the things I really want to encourage you guys is you go back to your offices, you go to your clients, wherever, is stop them when they want to create stuff. They all want the silver toy. They always want the shiny thing. We need a viral video. We need hits. We need views. I want you to just ask them one question. I want you to ask them why. It will stop them dead in their tracks every time. But it's a great that you have to have this conversation. When I was just down at Full Sail University in Orlando, and I had this student come up and say, Cece, I wrote this book. I wrote this novel. It's out there. How can I get more readers? And I started asking her questions like, well, what genre is it? Is it available in the e-plat? I started asking her all these questions. And and by the end of it, we had an answer. But without me asking that question of why and how and what is it, she wouldn't have gotten an answer. And far too many of these social media experts, also known as social media douchebags, rock stars, gurus, ninjas, Jedi. Oh, Jedis. Jesus, I hate that one. Yeah, unless you can really kick my ass with a lightsaber, shut up with the Jedi stuff. That one's for you, Chris Penn, if you guys don't know Chris Penn, CS Penn on Twitter, he can kick your ass with a sword. He's a black belt in ninjutsu sword fighting. He will kill you. He's the one that's allowed to say Jedi. I allow that. But all these people, it's funny, all these people are like, I've got the answer to your questions. Here's 10 steps to have a better Twitter profile. Or here's the way you're going to get more Facebook followers. Or here's the marketing campaign. I've worked on some massive marketing campaigns. And you know what? Just because you have more money doesn't mean it's a better campaign, doesn't mean you get more engagement. If at the end of the day what you did is not engaging at all, everything you create, whether it's a tweet, a Facebook update, a video, a blog post, if you're doing it for a purpose of getting more attention or selling them more of a product, you've got to evoke emotion out of people. I always talk about passion is contagious. If I read it and I get excited, I get offended, I laugh, any old emotion, it's going to make me share it more often than if I would just go, it was okay. It's not rocket science. This book is not rocket science. I still laugh when people get all excited about it because it was a lot of work and I'm very, very proud of it, but I still, when Ann and I wrote it, we kept asking ourselves, does anybody need to hear this again? You know, I'm sure a lot of people in this room are going to read, when you get to chapter 2 and you read the content rules and you read this stuff, you're going to go, yeah, you're right. But I tell you, I talk to clients all the time. They don't get it. And I'm not just talking about big brands. There's small brands. There's mom and pop stores. I had a guy the other day who was asking for help. He wants to start his own church. And he read the book. He's like, dude, I'm going to totally do this stuff. And you laugh, but I think it's great. Why not? When we wrote the book, we honestly said, there was 2 profiles we couldn't find to put in the back of the book. There's 10 case studies in the back. Everybody from a soldering company. They blog every day about soldering. But they're B2B. Their customers love it. These engineers are writing about all this stuff that it means nothing to me, but it means everything to their consumer base. And we laugh about it, but it's perfect. You know, I wanted to put a church in there, and I wanted to put in a musical artist. But I couldn't find a musical artist who's big enough and using content enough to really put it in there. Because a lot of them are doing little bits of things, but no one's really I couldn't find one in time. Those are the 2 things I want. And so you laugh about a church, but I really want to put one in there. And when we wrote it, we put a big disclaimer up front because we talked about the fact that, you know, we said customers, but we could have meant voters. We could have meant parishioners. We could have meant, you know, members for a nonprofit. I work with a nonprofit, and they're scared to death of content. Absolutely petrified. And I keep telling them, are you kidding me? You have all these they work with emotionally distraught kids. And I was like, are you kidding me? If you get their families to tell their stories, they'd be all over. You'd have donations just piling in. So I did. I bought them a case of books and said, you guys got to read this, and then we'll talk. Anybody can use this book. Anybody can use the things in it, and it's not rocket science. I'll say it over and over. You don't even have to buy the book. You can I bet you pretty much know it all already. I'm pretty sure of that. But it's funny. One of the case studies in there that I'm really proud about, and I talk about it all the time because I guarantee there's somebody in this room right now going, yeah, CC, but my company can't do this, or my clients can't do this. And I always bring up the case study of the U.S. Army. They have this website, Army Strong Stories. And what's great about it is they literally 2 years ago at Blog World, I saw these guys in military fatigues, and I said, what are you guys doing at Blog World? And they said, oh, we just started a blog. Any active duty soldier can blog. And I kind of looked at them and I said, all right. And at that point, they had 9 of them. They had like a dentist, they had a chaplain, they had an infantry guy. They now have almost 200 bloggers. They don't recruit them. They don't look for them. They don't say, hey, we need a 35-year-old female overseas. They don't do any of that. Anybody who wants to can sign up. They can post pictures. They can post videos. They can write text. And there's absolutely no administration whatsoever. It goes live immediately on Army Strong Stories. They've got soldiers with bombs and guns and other things, and they're posting to the web instantly without administration. If they can do it, any company can do it. And I use them as an example because everyone stops and goes, well, they can't really be doing that. And they are doing it. And I asked I had the luxury of interviewing this captain, and I asked her, I said, well, what if that person posts something bad? And she told me about this 18-year-old who was over in Iraq. This was 2 years ago. Over in Iraq and was writing this blog post about, God, I miss my kids. I hate getting shot at. It's hot. I don't even believe why we're here. This sucks. And it's up on their recruiting website. And I said, well, what do you say to that? And they said, plain and simple. They said, if that post makes someone not join the military, we probably didn't want them in the first place. It was so simple, but it was so dead on perfect. Because it was so true. I'm like, well, wait a minute. If they're developing content for their customers, they want them to see what it's really like. They're using it to weed out people. But still this day, if you go out there to Army Strong Stories, guys are posting video. There was a post a little while ago about this guy on vacation at Disneyland talking about how leave is important to him because he's with his family. They're writing about all these different topics. The recruiters are using this tool. They're not using it to, they're not saying, oh, we need this type of post or we need, buzzwords and SEO. They're letting their employees, who are these soldiers, write about what comes to mind whenever they want. And I think it just speaks volumes for the way most companies could approach this if they wanted to, but most are scared to death. I mean, I know I've worked with Coke and American Eagle Outfitters, these big companies, and they're petrified of it. Any company that is big enough to have legal is scared to death of this stuff. Are there any lawyers here? I usually get in trouble because I hate lawyers. I really do. I like them when they're on my side, but they get in the way of this stuff a lot. So, I mean, I also get upset with PR people and marketing people who get stuck in the old ways of doing things. The 30-second spot, the print ad. That stuff does not translate directly to online. You got to think in a little different way. Throwing a banner. When was the last time you guys clicked on a banner ad? I'm not saying ads are dead. I'm not going to say anything like that. I'll leave that for Joseph Jaffe to say. Come on, Mitch. I expected a giggle from that one, wherever you are. We go way back, so I can pick on Joe. I worked for him for a year, so I can totally pick on him. And if you're watching, Joe, what's up? As you get out there and you start going down the content road, please, when you first get going, think about why you want to do it. Think about why you're creating it, and then think about what you're going to create. People always ask us about, well, I don't have any budget, or it's just me, or I'm a small company, what can I do? And my answer is plain and simple, is to play to your strengths. Figure out what you enjoy doing. I hate video editing, so I don't do a lot of video. I love video, but I can't produce it. I take a lot of photographs. Audio has always come easy to me. I've never edited audio in my life. I hate audio editing. That's why my podcast, people are like, CC, it's so natural. I'm like, because I hit record, say whatever happens, and let it go fly. And it's worked for me. But figure out what you're interested in and what you're okay with, and do it. And don't focus on the simple thing. Everybody thinks content is writing and video. Those seem to be the only two. I made damn sure that there was a big photography chapter in the book because I'm a huge photography junkie. Don't forget about webinars. Don't forget about newsletters. Some of these things aren't sexy, but you know what? They work really, really good. We did a webinar a few weeks ago, and it wasn't our database, but we had 600 people listening to us ramble on a webinar for Citrix. But it was good content for them. So webinars aren't dead, and I'll tell you, as someone who speaks, it's 10 times harder to do a webinar than be in a room full of people, but you get to do it in your PJs, so it's really, really cool. Not having to be on a plane. Yeah, webinars are great. You get to do it in your PJs. No one can see what you look like. It's great. And then they pull the trick where they decide to put video up, and then it really sucks. But it's all, what? No beer? Beer is I can do beers during a webinar. And this isn't vodka, by the way. This is just water. So it's not going to get funnier as we go on. That would be a fun trip. Put vodka in here, we'd have some good times. But everybody gets scared of content. Everybody gets scared of taking that first step. But it doesn't have to be a big one either. Start small. Pick a project. Pick a new product launch. Maybe it's an event. Maybe it's something cool you got going on in the company. And start there. Dip your toe in the water. Don't think you have to go all in. That Army website, when it first went live, it was like a blogger template straight out. It looked like crap. But they got it up and did it really quick. They were focusing on the written and the pictures and stuff. Now it's got all kinds of video integration. Obviously, their PR firm did some great work with them getting a designer. It looks great. But it didn't start out that way. And you don't have to dive in all the way. I think if people like Bob and I, back when we started podcasting, waited for everything to be pretty and everything to be great and everything to be in place, we would have never have started in the first place. The tools get better every single day. I'm sure there's something being created right now that we don't even know about. And also, the other question we get a lot is, well, how do I keep on track of all these tools? There's something coming out all the time. Figure out what works for you and use those things. I sign up for every damn social network there is, but do I spend time on them? No. I sign up there so that people can find me. I want to make sure that if somebody goes to, whitechair.com, whatever the new social network is, and they search for me, I want them to find me. I use it as a beachhead. I drive traffic to my site. And for God's sake, please, 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 do not set up yourself or your client or anybody only on these social networks as like their home base. All these idiot bands who relied on MySpace as their home base. But same thing with Facebook. Facebook pages can go away. Facebook changes their rules every 5 minutes. I've had very big clients with lots of money being spent on Facebook, their pages disappear. It's rented, it came back, thank God, but it's rented space, and you need to think about that. Always make sure your home base is someplace you control, and drive your traffic to there. I'm not saying don't put stuff out on Facebook. I'm not saying don't put it out on YouTube. But always make sure you've got a place that you can control. You want to talk about SEO and all those things? You want all the inbound links possible. Those social networks do help drive inbound links. You want those things. But make sure it's someplace you control, please, because all these companies who set up and all they have is a Facebook profile, and that's where they're driving their traffic, it always worries me to death because I'm like, that could go away tomorrow. And I always bring up MySpace, or for us old timers, I'm like, remember Friendster and all those? Does anybody remember Friendster? But see, there's not many of us in this room. We're really old. You got a what request? On Friendster? Wow. I hope you didn't actually know the person. If I got a friend request on Friendster today, I would like disown that person if I actually knew them. I'm like, grow up. Kicking it old school, yeah. Oh, God. I still get those damn things.
Classmates.com.
Yeah.
You have to repeat, Cece.
Oh, sorry, classmates.com, the site of the future. Right there with pets.com. God. Yeah, someone the other day was joking about, because Groupon, is Groupon in Canada yet? How they bought out the pregame show for the Super Bowl, and everybody was like, oh, they're dead. They're advertising during the Super Bowl, they're dead. And I'm like, I don't think Groupon's dead yet. Don't worry about them. But yeah, I mean, make sure you have control of your stuff, and then put it everywhere possible. Don't ever do this thing of keeping it locked into your own place. One of our rules is to give it wings and roots. The roots part is to keep it grounded where you own it. The wings part is to let it spread wherever it is. I had a client who did this beautiful 5-camera HD shoot of a really kick-ass concert we did, and they insisted that it be embedded on their, you can get that. It could be embedded on their site, and they wouldn't allow it to be shared anywhere. And when they asked, and it was beautiful, big name artists. And I vividly remember, because I don't bite my tongue ever, and I remember being in an office with the senior VP of marketing. He's like, we're going to get 1 million hits, da-da-da. And I said, there's no way in hell, dude, that you are not going to. And I thought I was going to get fired on the spot. And a month later, I was like, told you so. And then he really got pissed. But he did. He was so mad. And it killed me, because I have all the footage. It's beautiful. But they didn't give it any wings. They didn't let it go out there. There's absolutely no reason to lock it in unless you're charging for it. If you're charging for it, that's a whole other ball of wax. If it's premium content, if you're doing it as special ebook or special video series, that's a whole other thing. Someone always says, well, Cece, if I'm charging for it, I can't let it out. Well, of course not. You can't. But if you're trying to get attention, if you want people to actually see this, if you want people to actually share it, if you want it to catch on, to go viral, you have to let it out there. Put it out there. Make it as easy as possible for people to share, especially the people who, don't forget, most of the people in this room probably know how to share content. They get the fact of how to grab an embed code and all that. There's a ton of people out there who don't know how to do it. Facebook, this is what makes Facebook millions eventually. The share, they make it super simple, easy to share every piece of content that anybody posts. Think about that as you're posting stuff. Are you doing it that easy? Are you making it as easy as possible for people to share with the world? Because if you're not, some people aren't going to get it. And finally, just make sure that when you're creating stuff, have fun doing it. Having fun is the most important thing. If you take away 2 things out of that I say, make sure you have a purpose in what you're doing, that you understand why you're doing it, how you're going to measure your success, how you're going to hit the ROI. And it's not always a number. It's sometimes it's hard to measure value. I'll give him props. Scott Monty from Ford always talks about, I can't measure the ROI of my pants, but I still put them on every morning. And it's such a simple, it works because everybody gets it and goes, hey, he's got something there. And, and I totally forgot. Well, there's all these great sponsors up here who brought me up. There's another sponsor who's helped make the Content Rules book tour possible, and it was funny too, because I can't wait to send it to Scott because it's in the bathroom here, the guys' room. The 2012 Ford Focus is the official vehicle of the Content Rules book tour. I don't know what that means. It means they bought. Huh? I flew because the car's not out yet. It's a 2012. They picked the car, and I said, well, why do you want that? And now I get it. Now they made all these announcements at CES that it's all electric, and there's all these other, but yeah, I paid my bills so I can get that out of the way. But it's funny, they took a risk. They said, hey, we want to be part of this book tour, and I said, well, what does that mean? They said, I don't know. We're still going to figure it out. But, we're going to make some videos, we're going to do something in Detroit. I don't know what it means yet, but they stepped out and said, we want to do something fun with you. So I really appreciate them helping do that and buy some books. What I really want to do, Scott, if you're watching, what I really want to do, I want to drive around Detroit with a Focus full of books and give them to every small business in Detroit. That's what I really, really want to do. See if Ford lets me do it. That's what I want to do. And I said it on public now. So Scott, let's make it happen. Everybody at Scott Monty and say, CC will actually do that. That'd be fun. That would be a lot of fun. Let's say, Canada wants Ford to step up and do this. That'd be fun. But the two things I really want you to remember, three things. I'll do three things. Really make sure you have a focus and you know why you want to do this and your clients want to do it. Wow. Who just said that? So I'm going to shift gears. I heard somebody say that now. So you're going to concentrate on what you want out of it. I can't say focus anymore. You suck, Bob or Kat or whoever said. All of you, troublemaker. And then have fun when you're creating it. Make sure you're having a good time. Fun. I'm done.
Not talking about Ford anymore.
Ford has hacked the stream.
Thanks for coming.
You can hear me? Then good, because I can't hear me. That's
No,
great.
I
I
can.
can talk loud enough. I'm not worried about them hearing me. I was worried about your stream thing. Do I just keep going?
You keep going, yeah.
Awesome. I did theater. I can yell. There's no worry about that. And have fun doing it. And then please, be human in everything you do. Please talk. Be direct. I always talk about Coke did this really cool thing where somebody challenged them on YouTube. We were doing a project for them, and this person called them out on video and said, hey, Michael Donnelly, why are you doing this? Michael Donnelly is like the senior VP of global yada, yada, yada. I forget his title. This was 4 years ago. And I said, Mike, you got to get on camera and talk to this guy. You have kids. I know you have a video camera. Just do it. Week went by, he didn't say anything. I said, Mike, where's this damn video reply? He's like, oh, I haven't got the studio time booked. I literally called him. I said, Mike, you're senior enough. Please put your head on a little bit here. Film it at your desk. Just talk to this guy on camera, answer his questions. And he did. He uploaded it to YouTube. All hell broke loose at Coke. The PR team, the lawyers were all over him. But you know what? Nothing bad happened. This guy that challenged him was like, oh my God. Oh, we're back. I'll talk softer now. He was like, oh my God, Coke is talking to me. And he's talking human. And he directed it and he went back and this guy who was against our campaign became one of our biggest advocates. Because he said, you know what, they are listening to this whole thing was, we brought Coke into Second Life and all hell broke loose because they were worried that big corporate sponsors, does anyone even remember Second Life? Remember that? They were all worried about, big corporate sponsor coming into little guy's realm and squishing everybody. And this guy, and he talked about it. And it was a scary thing for Coke. It was a scary thing for this guy Mike to do. But you know what? It wasn't that hard to do. He just was himself. And let's face it, if your employees work for you, they probably know what to say and what not to say. Amber Naslin from Radiant 6 always talks about, if you've got somebody working for you who's saying things wrong online and inappropriate, it's not a social media issue, it's an HR issue. And she's so right. Have some trust in your employees. You hired them, right? Every single employee for your company now is your PR department. They are your customer support. They're out there. If they're online and they're talking about you and they have the name of the company, they're out there already. So just be ready for that and embrace it and let them have a voice. I hate to give them credit, but look at Zappos with all of their, which are not in the book, by the way. There's no Zappos, no Comcast in the book on purpose. Love them both. Penny, what's up? When you need diamonds, go to ice.com. Not paid for plug. I just really like him, and I haven't seen him in years. Early supporter of podcasting. One of the few. So thank you. See, that's how it works. We remember these things, right? Company helped out way back in the day. So yeah, let's get some questions, because I'm sick of just babbling. I want to answer your questions. I'm scared of your question. I'll come to you in a minute. Tara scares me in the best possible way. So I know to repeat. Yeah, so the question is, why were the publishers so worried about the be human thing? Plain and simple, they thought it was demeaning. They thought companies were going to be offended that we had to say that to them, and we're pretty blunt about it.
That's pretty blunt.
Yeah, but they were. Our editor was. She literally said, "Can you guys please take that rule out or make it, change the wording of it?" And Ann and I were adamant that no, we're not going to change it because it's the simplest way to say it, and it's funny because we have this whole slideshow where we have these robots, Ralphie, our robot, and we have this picture of him saying, quoting a Robert Frost poem, and it says, "Be human," but because it is so silly seeing a robot try to speak Frost, but it's the same way when all these companies are trying to speak marketing speak rather than human speak. But they were worried about it. They literally thought companies would read that and be offended by it. And
It's really interesting because earlier this week, I wrote something for a client, and it had, human. And she said, well, that's okay for us, for people to read that, but please don't let it get out there. Like out there with 10 other people in the company, not out there like out there.
what, to let them be human? Or the...
And I just said, like, in the key messaging,
Yeah.
saying, like, talk to people and be human.
And
But there's this like look of fear and eyes that, get all big, and I just find it so weird.
and she's talking about her company was scared to let the be human, talk like you're a human out to the other employees, right? And it's not alone. And the size doesn't matter either. That's the crazy thing. I mean, I've consulted with one-person companies, and they're like, no, I have to be on message or do this stuff. And what always cracks me up is, so like, I'm pretty free-flowing with what I say on Twitter, and when people who don't know me or they think they know me, and I'll like drop an F-bomb or I'll start talking about Rage Against the Machine or something, they're like, I actually had someone one day go, "Cece, did your account get hacked?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And this was someone who I thought knew me, like a friend. And he's like, "Well, you're not talking like you." And I actually called him up. I mean, we're close enough that I called him. I'm like, "What the hell's your problem? I'm not being me." And he's like, "Well, you're usually all," and I forget what it was. I was like chewing somebody out on Twitter. I was pissed off. And they actually thought I got hacked. And I'm like, "No, I'm just being me." And if that loses a customer, if that loses a speaking gig, then I can't not be who I am. I just refuse it. The other thing that pisses me off more than anything is, "Oh, Cece, you're just like you are online. It's so nice to meet you in person." And but we used to. I'm sure you got that, Bob and Kat, back in the day with podcasts where all we did was hear people. We never saw people, and people would always get that impression where they had an image in their head. You ever want to see a weird geek fest? Find pictures from the Portable Media Expo 2005. All these podcasters from around the world who had never seen each other, because there was very few of us who actually had photos out of what we looked like. Talk about that was a geek fest. That was Geeks Gone Wild. Find pictures from the Yahoo party. Hopefully there are none, because that was fun. I'm leaving it at that, because I'm not going to tell any more about that. Yes, Tara. Do you remember what I told you when I first met you? You don't? I tell the story all the time. So Tara Hunt wrote a great book called The Woofie Factor. Great book. She has a cool startup that's happening right now. If you want to know about the future of online shopping, talk to her. But I vividly remember. You don't remember this? I do. I tell the story all the time. We had this small intimate dinner at South by, and I ended up getting seated next to her. Now I've never met her. I've got a little fanboy crush on her because I'm like, she's awesome. But then we talked through the whole night, and then it was funny because I vividly remember turning to you and going, "You know what? I like you a lot better than I thought I would." And what I meant by that was because I had read The Woofie Factor, great book, I really enjoyed it, but what I didn't realize about Tara was how much business sense she had. A lot of people wrote off The Woofie Factor and that whole concept as, lovey-feely good, social capital, yay. But then we met and you were grounded in business sense, and I was like, hell yeah. So there's the story I want to. That was a fun that was me, Tara, and Julian Smith around a table. That was trippy. Sorry, you had a question.
Yeah, so can you talk a little bit to mobile content? Because I think this is probably one of the pieces of the future, right?
Yeah.
Podcasts are a little...
I'm so sad no one in here makes podcasts. Yes.
And even video and stuff, right? So Kanye West recent
Sorry, I'm not hip enough to Kanye West. What did he do? Seriously, I have no idea.
A video that did go really viral, people were sharing it around online.
Was that his 30-minute? Yeah, okay.
But it's not, but you can't watch it on a mobile phone,
Right.
right? And then all this stuff, so this is a big discussion around mobile content. Maybe talk a little
Yeah.
bit about the difference in mobile.
So the question, I haven't forgotten. I hate this
Thanks
look like,
so
is he going to
much.
do it? Is he going to say it? The question is talking about mobile and how, I mean, I'm kind of answering it and repeating it. About mobile and how you got to think about mobile when you're creating content. And it is crucial because let's face it, everybody in this room probably has a smartphone, right? And we all consume content of one form or another on it. It always kills me when I go, even something as simple as I go to a blog and I hit it on my phone and it actually brings up the graphical website. I hate that because there's plugins that will detect if it's a phone or not. Free plug. If you use WordPress, WP Touch, install it tomorrow. It automatically defaults it so it's only text and photos rather than your whole design, so you can actually read it on a mobile platform. And it knows the difference between an iPhone and an iPad, so it knows which to show pretty and which not to. But let's face it, we're going to get to be even more mobile. I mean, I got to play with the BlackBerry Playbook the other day, their new platform, their new tablet. There's all these new tablets coming out. Tablets are going to rule the world here in no time. We're consuming content on our phones. The phones are going to get better. They're not going to get any bigger, guys. So we all like our small phones. So as you're creating content, think about how does it work on a mobile. If you haven't done this, go look at your website from your phone. You guys should be doing this. Because it's a scary thing the first time you go to your website on your phone and it's like, oh my, can I read that? Can I see it? If it's Flash, yeah. If it's Flash, and I'm not saying Steve Jobs was right or wrong, but if it's a Flash website, it doesn't work on one of the biggest platforms out there now. So that's something to think about. And there are still Flash reasons. I get it. I don't want to play that game. I don't want to get in a fight here about HTML5 versus Flash because I'm not the guy to have that fight. But that little blue brick is a pain in the butt now when I see it. I get very angry because I do more surfing from my iPad than I do any other device. You have to think about these things. Think about your audio. Will it play on... I remember trying to get this years ago for podcasts, to get it to play on a low enough bit rate to play on the phone. That's not as bad as it used to be. But think about the content. When you're making that 8-minute video, 8-minute, 10-minute, 12-minute video, is anybody really going to watch that on their phone? Try to always think in bite-sized content. Think, how small can I make this? I love it. So my co-author's a woman. My editor's a woman. I thought it wouldn't make it into the book, but my philosophy, and I take full credit for this one, is the miniskirt philosophy. It's long enough to cover the essentials, but short enough to keep it interesting. That's what you need to think about. See, I really thought Ann wouldn't let that fly, but she loved it, and Shannon, my editor, loved it, so I take credit for that one. Yeah?
What's your insight on Quora?
So what's my feeling about Quora? Do you all know what Quora is? I don't know. Okay, so Quora, you ask questions, people answer them. They can vote them up and down. Sort of like LinkedIn questions, sort of like Yahoo answers, sort of like Mahalo, sort of like Facebook questions. This isn't rocket science. I do think it has its place. I think it's an interesting concept. Asking questions is why I love social media. I know I can throw a question out and get an answer back immediately from people. But all this hype about Quora, and Quora got on my bad side because it does the most annoying thing in social media, that it auto-follows people when you give it access to Twitter or Facebook. If you and they say it in their little print, by the way, we're going to follow the first 2,000 people on your list, just an FYI. But it's in the little print that none of us read when we hit next, finish, and we never read it, because we all do that. So they got on my bad side. They're on my shit list. I do not like Quora because of that. But I'm not that impressed with it. I just think everybody jumped in. It's the flavor of the week, just like Facebook. Remember when Facebook added Facebook questions? Does anybody remember that? It was a big deal. Do any of us use it? I use it from time to time. It is a beachhead, yeah. And it was funny because when I was actually in Orlando, the student, he was involved in a website, and I don't even remember the URL. I feel bad now. But he brought it up, and I looked at it, and I started laughing. And he goes, "What's the matter?" I said, "Wow, this is a pretty version of Quora." And he had no idea. Nobody in the entire room, there's 200 people in the room, had never heard of Quora. but half of them had heard of this website, and I wish I could remember the URL, but it was real pretty, and their whole thing was this same exact model. So I was like, well, if there's this one, I guarantee you there's probably 10 others out there. So pay attention to it, keep an eye on it. I saw the other day, I got a Google ping because someone asked, who's the audience for content rules? And they asked on Quora. I was like, oh, so I have to pay attention for 5 minutes. And it was, what was real fun though, instead of me answering, I sent it out to Twitter and said, hey, if you've read the book, can you go answer this question? I'm curious. And like 3 or 4 people jumped in and answered it. And I thought, wow, okay, that was the first time I had seen any value at all from Quora. But I think it's got potential. I mean, let's face it, people love to ask questions and people love to answer questions. So it's one of those, it'll be interesting to see, A, if someone buys it and where it goes long term. I don't know, but we love to ask our friends for advice on everything, right? I mean, shopping especially.
So I think, just to jump in,
Yeah.
your show, so I won't.
No, jump. But you gotta jump over.
What's really interesting about Quora isn't, it is about content. It's not about like friends asking friends questions. They curate those people that were on Quora earlier enough. Like
Yep.
they put the people, the cool kids that we want to ask questions of in the position of asking those questions early on. So for instance, like they put the VCs, real like Jeff Clavier and Dave McClure and Mark Sester, they put them in there like, come on in and answer the questions or ask the questions. So they're curating actually the content.
Right.
And they're just not none of it's accident.
But see, the thing she's talking about how they curated the content by getting some cool kids in first with different verticals to answer questions, which is smart. But one of the things that I worry about it long term because it is sort of just a clearinghouse of Q&A, whereas like LinkedIn I know is career questions, or I know Sprouter out of Toronto, they have the Ask the Experts question, which I have to go answer some because I haven't done one of them in a while. But if you want startup advice, Sprouter does it. It's like these different. I think the idea of having a targeted niche focused area works a lot better, whereas Quora is just kind of like ask anything. You see all the stuff. So it'll be interesting to see if they get more diverse. I mean, more niche focused, or I mean, the concept of asking questions and getting answers and being able to raise them up and down is hugely helpful. I'm just not sure that site's the right one yet.
The only thing that really makes it interesting is that it's getting those cool kids to answer questions on topics that have nothing to do with them. So like, it was interesting getting perspective of some of those people from like questions like, should I commit suicide? It's like, that's kind of a weird question to pose, but then you see all these like really interesting people answering that question, like, wow, that's kind of interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
So we're talking about suicide on Quora. No, you should not. There's my answer. You should not commit suicide. That's my answer for.
There's a lot of interesting stories where all these people, this is why.
Huh? Yeah.
Just to bring it back to content, my question to you is, and sort of does a little bit well with that is, so how do you balance being unique and being relevant, and what's more important, or can you do both?
So the question is, how do you balance being relevant and unique, or both, and still be successful?
Yeah, I mean, like, do you need to be unique, or do you need to be relevant, or do you need to be both?
That's easy. You need to be you. You need to be who you are, or who your company. I mean, let's face it. Some people, you look like an iJustine or Philly D. These guys are unique for the sake of being unique. They're out there being they're a personality. And I'm not slamming Philly or iJustine. I love them both. They're both great, but they are a personality. They're unique. Same thing with a business. I mean, let's face it. You're trying to be. If you try too hard and that's not your brand, that's not your voice, it's not going to work. What Axe shower gel can get away with in content. I was going to say Old Spice, but that doesn't work because they kind of went that way too. I mean, they to an extent, but they don't. They still are two very different things. I think. You did a what?
They did an RT contest. RT is if you want to.
Oh, well, yeah, and retweet contests are really popular and they're easy, and they're easy. They're easy from the brand perspective. It's a great way to get a whole bunch of. I mean, hell, we did a trivia contest where we gave away a bra an hour. It was for American Eagle Outfitters launched this new bra, and we were doing Twitter and Facebook contest. It wasn't anything unique, but their fans went, I don't know if I can say that. They went crazy. They went nuts. I mean, they loved it because it was perfect for them. It was in their voice. It worked for them. Asking stupid, dumb questions about clothes. I'm not a fashionista. I don't care. But they cared about it. They were like all over it. You know, what's the name of the bra we unrolled? I was shocked people knew it. Thousands of people knew the answer to these questions. I think the key is figure out what's right for you. I mean, and it's one of those things that, people are going to say, well, we don't have time to figure out what our voice is, or we don't have time. But it's what you have to figure it out, because all your marketing, all your PR, everything should be based off of that. And I've spent time sitting down with companies and literally just spending, a couple hours or more figuring it out what it is, because it should not be a hard question, but it really is. And even it doesn't matter if you're a mom and pop store or a huge corporation. Sometimes it's hard to figure that out, and it also has to do with figuring out what they're comfortable with saying, how they want to say it, how you're going to be human. I mean, it's a balancing act. There's no single right answer. There's no silver bullets in this book, by the way. If you think you're going to get all the answers, because there's no silver bullet in any of this social media stuff. It really isn't. You look at the bookshelves, all the books, and it's funny because I got really pissed when someone called this a social media book, and you will find very little talk. I refused to write a book that would be out of date the minute it hit store shelves. We've been creating content in our entire lives since the first caveman drew on a wall, and we're going to be creating content forever. The tools we use to spread that message are going to change. They're changing every day, but content is content. That's why I always talk about we always created it, we always have. We just kind of forgot about how to do it sometimes. So I handle.
Cece, sorry, I'm going to jump in with the power of my microphone.
Where are you? Jesus.
Here, the back,
Power
to say
of
that Scott Monty has answered you. Would you like to hear?
Uh-oh.
So Deborah Edwards Honoro said, hey, Scott Monty,
Uh-oh.
on Twitter, at #3MTT, thank you, Deborah. Tonight, at CC Chapman says he wants to drive around in his 2012 Ford Focus giving away #content rules books. And the answer is, can I find it?
Oh, come on. You can't tease
yes,
like that.
the answer is, it would be great if we had some available. #3MTT, #content rules. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the car.
That's better than #FU.
Yeah. and Scott is a close personal friend. I knew Scott before he was Scott Monty, so but that's funny. I hope he's talking about the car. Otherwise, I gotta talk to him about the other side of it. That's cool that he answered. See, and there's a perfect example. Somebody tweeted something at Scott. Scott's, if you don't know, he's the global communications manager for Ford Global. And Scott's on Twitter answering silly, dumb questions that I asked you to ask him. And that's Scott. But that's Scott. He wears bow ties, he loves Sherlock Holmes, and he talks on Twitter a lot. And if you didn't know that about bow ties and Sherlock Holmes, Scott does do a podcast about Sherlock Holmes that he doesn't talk about, but it's out there. He's a rabid fan. And he loves his bow ties. It's crazy. I don't get bow ties. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Something about the concept and the idea of Facebook later appear like any other platform. It's sort of the same kind of backup archive safeguard like mine.
So the question is what is social safe?
Application that I downloaded that safeguards and archives and saves backup
Oh.
everything that's my friends and my posts and everything.
Do you back up your Twitter account too?
No.
Good. There's all these things that archive your tweets, and I've always got a kind of kick out of that. I mean, Backupify also does. I use that to back up things. I've never heard of social safe.
Yeah, it's like $3 and safeguard is a software that you can download that connects with Facebook where you can get everything.
So the question is about there's these services now that allow you to back up online services. Would you say it? Social Safe. I know Backupify does it as well. I'm sure there's others, and there's definitely money in that, for sure. My question is, you back it up, where do you get to put it back to? I know I back up Backupify. I back up my Twitter account, not Twitter, Jesus, Cece, Flickr, the one that matters to me. Flickr matters to me more than anything. And I back it up, and it's funny because the format is kind of kludgy. Like, I'm not sure what I'd ever be able to do with it. I don't know how Social Safe backs it up. It can't hurt to use these services because most of them are fairly inexpensive. Yeah, but my problem is if Facebook all of a sudden, if your page disappeared, you know, would you? There's no way I know to put it back, you know, from this backup that you've got. Do you ever go back? Well, yeah, in that case, then it's important. But would you ever go back and look at it? I don't know. Yeah. So I think the neat thing about all these tools, and I mean all the social media tools, is each of us figure out what works for us and what doesn't. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do this stuff. Is what's fun about it. You know, Flickr to me is the most important thing in the world. So if I lost that, I would cry. So I back up that one. Facebook and Twitter I'm not as concerned about, but Backupify does it automatically for me. So I'm like, it's already in the cost. I'll do it. But I've never. It's funny because it's one of those. The genius about those programs is the fact that you subscribe, and it's kind of like the gym membership. You subscribe, and then you just never cancel, and they just keep charging you over and over and over. They're genius in that way. And it's funny. One of the things I wanted to mention. It's funny. People seem to think you can't make money from content. And now I hate him for doing this. He's a good friend, so I can say I hate him with love and affection. So you guys have probably heard of Chris Brogan before, right? So Chris just started this thing a month ago, where once a month he will send you an email with 10 different topics for your blog post that month, right? Here's 10 things to write about this month, and he's charging $10 a month to do this. He has 600 people already subscribed to it. You do the math to send out an email with 10 topics for a blog post. I hate him because I wish I had thought of that. You now wish you had thought of that. But it's such a simple piece of content, and the thing about it that drives me really crazy was, I'm like, here I am preaching about content, and I could have done that, but I didn't think of it. But it's such a really simple, and that further proves to me that people are craving ideas for content. And I'm sure Chris sits there on a plane or in his PJs playing with his kids and goes, what are 10 things I can throw out? You know? But you know what? He jumped on it, so good for him. And he's gotten a ration of crap for selling out. I'm sorry, when you cash a check and go to the bank, you don't care about all the haters calling you sellout. So good for him. I just wish I had thought of it first. So people... Yeah, I could, yeah. I'm going to do 20 topics for $5 and undercut him.
Allô?
The 5 that Chris forgot.com. Love you, Brogan.
Est-ce
Yeah.
que tu peux m'entendre?
There we go. Start a new Cora, for sure. Cora?
Ok, on a...
Cora? No, like Chichia? Do we have those up here? Chichia pets? Okay. Wait, I'm in Canada. Quick test. And you can blame Ottawa for this. Be honest. This is not a trick question. There's no grade. I'm not going to laugh and giggle at you. I have one of those. No. How many of you in this room, if you had to build a real fire out of real wood, could do it? With matches. You are Canadian. No, you're not. Okay. So we have a rule talking about stoking the campfire, and on page 96 in the book, because I had to look it up for the other day, one of my city slicker friends couldn't start his own wood stove. I'm like, you idiot. I'm like, go to the book. We had to put instructions of how to build a fire. And so Ottawa made me promise that, because I asked that question, they were the first place, and everybody raised their hand, and someone was like, Cece, we're Canadians, come on. So now I ask the question everywhere. Yes?
Your last point about building fire
Yeah?
was so popular among this Canadian crowd that they're now all discussing amongst themselves the best way.
The best way? Are you guys log cabin or teepee people? What? Totally. Okay. Now I got to ask. I didn't think about asking the thing. Okay. It was so funny because in Orlando, a bunch of college kids in Orlando had no clue how to build a fire. Are you kidding me? We don't teach. No, sorry. Kids in the States are idiots when it comes to outdoor stuff for the most part. I'll say it. Yeah, we had Boy Scouts, but they don't. You're digging, I'm going to dig a deep hole here, and they don't teach them like they used to. I'll just leave it at that. And don't get me going on the Girl Scouts, because they really piss me off. Sorry, what? Oh, yeah, I'm okay. Uh-oh, he listens. Yeah!
When you do your blogging and your podcasting, be regular, in the sense that you yourself, you decide to do one when you have something relevant to say.
Yes.
Other than putting the pressure on saying, okay, I'm blogging every week, I'm blogging every 2 weeks, and so on. Can you talk more about that?
So the question is the fact that I'm notorious for doing a podcast, and then, it's whenever he's calling me out on this, and he's totally right. I do a podcast or blog when I have something to say. Whenever I see somebody online say, I've got to get a blog post out today, I sort of giggle a little bit because that's not the way I approach it. And I get people, every time I'm someplace, somebody asks about that. They ask, well, should I write every day or should I write when I have something to say? There's nothing wrong with a publishing schedule. One of our rules is that you should think like a publisher. You should, the idea of an editorial calendar, the idea of a publishing schedule is a very, very good one. But when it hampers you, when I was talking to a company the other day who will remain completely anonymous, they're a 25-person shop. They require every employee to blog once a week. Required. Now that sounds good. That's a lot of great content. But the girl who I was talking to said, yeah, but some weeks I just don't have anything to say, and I end up writing something that's actually worse than if I hadn't written something. And it's a balancing act, and you have to figure it out because, if you don't, the other thing with that stoking the campfire metaphor is if the campfire goes out, if people suddenly don't get content from you, they will fade away. They will go look for content elsewhere. People like regular content. They like to know that, if you read the paper still, every morning you like to get up and you read the paper, people like regular content. But I personally, and this works for me, it doesn't have to work for everybody, I create stuff when I have something I really want to share and I want to say. And it's the way I've always approached, especially podcasting. I can spit out words whenever I want if I have to. Podcasting is a much more intimate, I have to really think about what I want to say, even though I do it off the cuff, but I have to be ready for what I'm going to say. And that works for me. I'm not saying it's the right way, I'm not saying it's the wrong way, but if you're publishing just for the sake of publishing, that's not the right answer ever. If you have a calendar, if you have a schedule, if you have a purpose for it, then great, stick to it. But you know what? If you miss one blog post, you miss a video, you will survive. It'll be okay. Don't get so hung up in the deadlines that you start putting out content just for the sake of filling that pipe. That's why whenever people start talking about SEO, there's nothing wrong with SEO. It's a very good thing. But when you use that to drive what you're creating, you're going to fail. You should pay attention to it. You should think about words. All that's important. All that stuff's really important. But don't let that drive you. Same thing with the schedule. Don't go, it's Friday, I got to put something up. I have to no matter what. That's my philosophy. And I know not everybody agrees with it, but you asked me, so that's my one opinion on it. Her than you.
Well, first of all, I can build fire, and I'm writing Canadian and French. So, even in Europe.
Woohoo!
My challenge is I work for a company who works with people who don't even know how to send an email. Half of our customers don't even know how to send an email. And the other half are addicted to emails and Twittering. And so I'm faced with this situation where I have to communicate, I have to articulate my content so that if you're like 65 and Jewish and have $5 million, you can understand my website and our content the same way a 23-year-old intern at a prestigious New York architectural firm is going to get it. Have you had that challenge in terms of your content?
What do you do? I'm very curious.
I work for, I work to get rich people and dictatorships to work for my company. We do real estate. So,
wow.
It's not very, it's a little sinful. But bottom line is,
At least
but it's
you
legal,
admit
I
it.
just like to say, bottom line is, I'm on Twitter, so, double checking.
Wait, so you're on Twitter, so that means it's okay?
Anyway, but my question is, what do you do when you have, for instance, a mom and pop kind of attitude, but you also know that you have a readership or people coming that are very kind of fluent with Twitter and everything, but then again, they want to send that link to their grandfather who's also in business, and you want them to get that too.
Yeah, so this nonprofit that I work with, I'm on their board of advice. I'm on their board. It's called Wadico. They work with emotionally distraught kids. So they have to, all the content they're creating has to go to very different audiences. The mom and dad who have a kid that they just don't know what to do with. You know, this kid's violent. He's emotionally distraught. And then at the flip side, they want the donors to line up and give them a lot of money. So it's not dictators, but it's still very different. You know, your word, not mine. Audiences, and what the board advised them, and I think this is true, is that, you know, you can balance it out. You write, you know, a good piece of content. They do a lot of writing. They don't do a lot of video yet. We're working on that. You know, we told them, you know, most of the people writing them in this case are social workers. Their entire staff is social workers, and they don't know Twitter. They don't know Facebook. But what I advised them is, you know what? We'll add those buttons. We'll add those share features so they're there, and if people know what they are, they know what to click on them. But at the end of the day, they're telling their story. They're sharing what they need to share in their voice. And I told them, I said, you know what? When you write a post, in their case, like if it's a medical post, write it full of medical terminology, but realize the mom and dad may not get that. And what they've tried to do, they actually try to balance it. They try to write, you know, in their case, they're writing a post a week for both audiences. You know, they're writing about success stories, you know, kids that they've had success with, and that's focused for the donor society. But they know parents are going to see that too and focus on it. On the flip side, they're creating content that they then show for grants when they're looking for money, to show them, you know, they dive deep into the medical stuff, and that bores me to death. But I also know, you know, that's one of the fun things about an RSS reader. You can just skip over that stuff really, really easy. So my advice would be figure out a balance between the two of them. Because if you only focus one way, you're screwed, right? You're not going to get what you need. And if you focus too heavy in one direction, you know, you got to balance it out. But think about it when you're writing, and think about, is there a way I could add something here to balance that out? You know, could I say it a little differently? Really think about it. Think about it. If you've got to approach multiple audiences like that are so different, try to balance it out a little bit. You know, really focus on the words you're using, or in that case, really think about the technology too. So like video may not be a good option for you, especially on those 65-year-olds scared of email people. They're not going to get video either necessarily, but they might. Let's face it. You know, things like YouTube have made it really easy to figure out video. Everybody gets the play button now. So I'm overgeneralizing on the video thing. Someone's going to call me out on it, I know. So I'm backtracking a little bit. Yeah, if you're in the back and you can get the mic, I know it'll make them happy.
Hi, Cece. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I have an issue and a concern because it's it's happening right now. See, I come from the traditional marketing background where content is validated, approved, double approved, and before it's published. And it also has to fit within the strategy, and then blah, blah, blah. It takes, you know, decade until it's actually gone out live. So now you have social networking, which I'm really keen on, and I see content just being published real time, and sometimes it's great, sometimes it's
not great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then you have a small structure, and there are many small structures here in Montreal where they don't have resources. So you have one person, maybe two, that's involved in feeding the content, whether it's on Facebook or elsewhere. And then as a consultant, you know, you see that there's a challenge. The guy's not a writer, obviously, or the gal, and doesn't have the writing skills. Trying to make humor, it's sometimes cheesy. You know, you're not going to attract the audience,
right,
if you continue that way. So I'm not in a position to say something because it's pretty touchy. I mean, it touches the individual more than anything else. What do you do?
You're not going to like my advice. My advice is tell them. I mean, yeah.
What do you do?
I had a client like this who, you know, they literally, we had an editorial calendar. They had legal and PR had to approve every tweet, every Facebook status update, and it was a long process of saying, listen, that's not going to work, you know. And the first couple times they would get really mad. I mean, like, not fisticuffs, but they were not happy with us saying, listen, you're wrong. And these were written, in this case, they were written by PR professionals, but they just, this person who was doing the writing didn't understand how Facebook and Twitter were different in this case. She was super talented. She knew she could write great, but she was writing things that just, they were long. They were, they didn't, we tried bringing things like, well, why don't you ask a question and watch how much more comments you get? Little things like that. And it literally took a long, long time to get her to come around and at least try some things. But what always works is results. If you can say, well, can we try it this one time? And if you're that confident in it, whether it's, asking a question, whatever the situation. In this case, I remember we said, ask a question. Don't put a single marketing spin in it, nothing. Just ask a question and watch your fans react. And sure enough, they did. And they were like, wait a minute, why are they talking back to us? Well, because you asked them something. But she started seeing the results. She's like, oh, wait a minute. So then with their marketing speak, even when it was like, hey, brand new product X is out, we'd stick a little question in, and she would start seeing those things, and we started bringing her around. I don't think sugarcoating it for them is going to ever help them in the long run. And I know it's super, super hard to have that with a client. It's never easy. But at the end of the day, if they keep paying you and they never see the results, they're not going to be happy in the long run either. I'm one of those, I have kids. I just tell it like it is. Rip the Band-Aid off, and it hurts. You might lose them as a client, and that's not easy either as someone who makes a living consulting. But I've always found that in the long run, it's the best thing possible.
Pause for a while? Should they just stop writing and just...
No, I think it's something to work with them. Hold their hand through it, not knowing the exact situation. Work with them to come around, and they may not, maybe they're never going to get there, and that's a real fun thing to figure out if you suddenly figure out this person's never going to change their ways. But with anything in this space, you got to kind of hold their hand through it and kind of tread very carefully. And when they mess up, say, well, hey, let's make it better next time. It's not. I wish there was an easy answer. That there's an app someone needs to do. The Fix the Bad Writing app. It's not out there yet. Someone want to make millions of dollars? Do that. Yeah.
What about bringing into this space like content professionals, like artists?
Yep.
I heard that Skittles they hire like comic writers to write their funny Skittle Facebook status. How come there are not that much artists or people that are creative bringing in into this space?
So the question is, why aren't more companies bringing in creatives and artists and hiring them to come in and help create the content?
Like painters, photographers, videographers.
Amen. I would love to see it. I think it's one of those things that, if you don't, the one thing I learned, because I started a marketing agency without ever working in the marketing field before. I had no idea, I just didn't know this, that agencies control what their brands do more often than not. And the agencies, most of them aren't, they've got these big pools of money, and a lot of times they're not willing to risk it. Or the client, I'm not just putting it on agencies, but also the client doesn't want to risk it. Why am I going to hire a painter? One of my favorite things I ever saw, and I wish I got more Dunkin' Donuts hired these 4 graffiti artists, and they painted this mural in Times Square of a Dunkin' Donuts cup. It's nothing spectacular, but they made these behind-the-scenes videos, and these guys were graffiti artists, and it was funny because one of them wouldn't show his face on camera. It was great. He always had the mask on. And I thought, there's a cool brand. Who'd have thought of Dunkin' Donuts being something cool like that? And I love that they did it. And I don't know if it was an agency thing or if someone approached them. I think it's just, people stay safe. They don't think way outside the box. I remember this concert I was talking about before. We had the idea of, well, let's give the bloggers press passes so they could get in the pit and shoot photos. And, people were like, we can't do that. What's Rolling Stone going to think? And I'm like, who cares? Let them in. And we literally, it's first and only time I got to shoot a cool concert down in the pit, and it was all, I went because I had a press pass now because of the client, but we had bloggers down there with their iPhones taking pictures in the pit of, of Black Keys and Gnarls Barkley and stuff, and it was really cool. And we used those pictures on the website or whatnot. I know SeaWorld used to do this cool thing where all their photos were crowdsourced. If you they had a special tag that if you tagged it, and their whole website was pulled from Flickr. I was like, what a great idea. And obviously they filtered out the really inappropriate stuff, but why couldn't they have hired photographers. I mean, it drives me nuts. I mean, where's Ava Blue? She's right here somewhere. Where is she? You know, I know she's hiding because but photography is such an interesting medium. Painting I had a campaign that I really wanted to do for a major motion picture, and we involved painters. We were going to hire painters to paint actual paintings and hang them in secret locations around the country. And the client was like, what? What? And we're like, because it's something different. You know, tactile stuff is fun. Just because we have all the digital stuff, I still like tactile stuff.
Yeah, because I think about being creative is that you take risks.
Yeah.
So our companies want to become media entities and be creative, but they're not willing to take risks.
Correct.
I don't see these two realities
I'll
fitting
get it.
together. I think there's a big paradox over there.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, part of what he's saying is part of creativity is taking risks. And let's face it, businesses, for good reason. You know, businesses need to make money to stay in, and risk is a scary thing. I mean, I like risk a little bit, but at the same time, it's a balancing act. And what's really interesting is some of the brands that you see get risky are the ones you would never imagine. The Dunkin' Donuts or Old Spice with a guy in a shower doing video, you know, we laugh about it now, but think about it. If a year ago I told you a deodorant company was going to do that, no one would have believed any of us. You know, it's always funny that it's usually the companies who you wouldn't think to do it, end up doing it, which is crazy. I wish there was more creative risk-taking, because it'd be so much fun to see this stuff. I mean, I know if you guys, sorry I'm harping on the photography, but if you ever look at, there's this photographer, Chase Jarvis, out of Seattle, and he was doing a campaign for SanDisk, you know, little memory cards, but he asked permission to show the whole shoot on, which I guess you never do, I guess, I didn't know. And he was shooting all this stuff on flip cams and stuff of all the behind the scenes of these skiers, and he was showing his process, and he was showing all the creative fun stuff. I'm like, we need more of that in the world. You know, who would have thought of SanDisk allowing this guy to do all this fun creative stuff, you know? But amen to more creativity and risk-taking. I wish we would.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting paradox because a lot of these kind of like crowdsourced like content generation things, it's all about the fact that you're going to this crowd, which is inexpensive. Like it does, you know, cut into the traditional artist who's like, you know, we can go to the photographer who's going to sit in the pit and take photos for Rolling Stone, or we can go out and get a bunch of bloggers to take photos and use those, and really who's going to really tell the difference?
Oh.
So it does create this weird paradox for people.
Crowdsource and professionals are very different things. And I tell you, the hardest chapter to write in this book was the photography thing, because I know anybody can pick up a camera and shoot a picture, right? Not everybody can pick up a camera and take a photo. Take a photograph. There's a huge, huge difference. Artists are artists for a reason. I can paint a picture, you know, can I paint? I don't even know what the hell that is, but you know, it's kind of fun. It's like the surface of the moon. It's kind of cool. But yeah, but no, there is a place and a time for crowdsourcing. There's a place and a time for paying for professionals. And let's face it, crowdsourcing, I hope to God, never replaces all the professionals in the world. Crowdsourcing is fun, but it's not the end-all, be-all either. I mean,
Right. So a lot of companies kind of look at this holistically,
they do.
right? And that's obviously a long reason to get into something like this.
Right. We're going to send out flip cams to everybody, and that's going to be our footage, rather than hiring a videographer. Or we're going to let, you know, and in that concert scenario, there was Rolling Stone and Spin and everything right there, too, next to us. But you know what's funny about it was that the photographers they hired for this event, there was also a college music contest, and the professional photographer never shot the winning band, but I did. So my photo ran in Rolling Stone as an ad for this company who was happened to be my client, so I didn't get paid anything for it, but and I get to say I was in Rolling Stone. They should have had a professional shot of it because it wasn't that great of a shot. Even I was like, well, it's not that good of a photo, you know? I can do some good stuff with a camera, but I'm not a professional photographer at all. So you get what you pay for, you know? We all get that lucky shot sometimes, but don't ever skimp just because you can, you know? On leverage? Yeah, leverage we don't like either. Leverage, synergy.
What's about what we call about the classified information about contents? Some contents in some companies are classified.
I don't quite follow.
You don't quite secret classified information.
What do companies classify as secret information?
Yeah, what's about something?
Oh, proprietary?
Yeah,
So the question is about proprietary content?
but it's about the blog and employees, you know.
Oh, worry about them sharing proprietary? Oh, that's easy. Fire them. No, I'm sorry. This goes back to the Amber. I give Amber Naslund complete. She says, if your employee shares information they're not supposed to, it's not a blogging or content issue. That's an HR issue. You need to fire them immediately, sue them if appropriately. I mean, but let's face it. They can go out and post on Facebook, Twitter, even if you don't give them the tools. I can go right now and share secrets everywhere if I want to. But if your employees are in a situation, and yes, there's some companies where you have to worry about that more than others. I mean, I worked in the government for a while, and I know we couldn't do a lot of things, and this was pre-social media, but yeah, there's times and places you have to put the proper boundaries, the proper limits in place, make them sign. I mean, every place now has disclosure policies, and lawyers are great in that situation. Drop the contract and say, here's what you can't say. No, I mean, there's rules for a reason, but just because you give them a blog doesn't mean they're automatically going to start doing bad things. And if they do, you fire them. And it's very much about educating. You need to share with them what not to do, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And what gets kind of touchy is when, even as a company, you're not sure what's appropriate yet. And in that case, you've really got to have this sort of symbiotic relationship where you keep talking about things. Well, is this appropriate? Is it not? I mean, I remember I got in trouble. I worked for a college, and on the college blog, I linked one time to a personal site post because I referenced it. Didn't think twice about it. I was like, I'm just linking out here. It wasn't link love. And I got in all kinds of trouble about it because there was a policy I didn't know about that they viewed it as personal promotion in the school. And I went, oh, so I removed the link. I just didn't know. But it was one of those things where they slapped me on the wrist and they said, oh, next. And then I learned. They didn't turn off the blog. They just said, Cece, you can't do that. Okay. But it's definitely education. Put those policies in place. And if you have questions, one of the neat things is most of the companies out there have policies that they put up online. I still really wish Coke has the best social media policy in the world. It's 3 pages. And it's out there. If you Google it, you can find it. And it's like no nonsense stuff. I encouraged them. I wasn't working with them. I said, release this under Creative Commons. It would be great press for you guys, but it'd also be kind of cool because people could then take it word for word because it was really, I mean, it's literally a 3-page social media policy for the entire global Coke brand. And it's genius. I wish I had written it because it's so simple. And they educate all the time. They're always doing seminars. They're always doing emails. They make sure their employees understand. And let's face it, there's going to be a new tool tomorrow that they're not going to be ready for. So you're completely right. You have to educate. Oh, someone has a microphone.
Cece, 2 things. First of all, somebody told me that this would be the last question. Oh. So housekeeping note. My question, my name is Mark Snyder. I've been blogging for like 7 years now. So when you were talking about you and Bob starting out your blog, your podcast, and it didn't have to be pretty at the time, you just threw it out there. Do you think people are as tolerant today about throwing out anything out there as they were 7 years ago?
There's a lot of crap out there right now. I mean, you mean like viewers and readers? More tolerant?
Viewers, readers, and upper ups in the hierarchy.
My philosophy has always been it's about the quality as far as what the actual content does, says, or shows me, depending on the medium, more than how slick and pretty it is. And this is where I get in trouble with the whole professional versus crowdsource, because I might watch a video shot on a flip cam or shot on a cell phone, and it's rough. It's not it sounds kind of itchy, but I want to listen to it. I want to see what they have to say. If it's compelling enough to me, I won't care what it looks like if it's compelling enough for me. The problem is you never know what's going to be compelling enough for your audience. I just recently redid my blog because I was sick of the way it looked. But I also know that probably 90% of the people who read my site on a daily basis probably read it via an RSS feed. They never actually see the design. I don't know that. That's a totally made up stat. I see you not agreeing with me, but I have no idea. But I would bet a lot of people come. But I do know there's a place for a good looking blog. I understand. I mean, whenever I go to Julian Smith's website, his is the only website I always go to without RSS because it's just such a kick-ass design. It's just really sexy and cool. And I never know what's going to pop up and scare me, which is what I love. InOverYourHead.net, if you've never seen this website.
He's spoken at
It's
Third
a great
Tuesdays,
site. Yeah. Sorry, Julian, that you're in Thailand and can't be here.
Yeah, Singapore.
Is he in Singapore now? Okay.
Sorry, Julian, I outed you.
Whatever, Julian. Don't come to Montreal when I'm here. That's fine. Julian's an old class of 2004 too, so I can pick on him. I think your audience is always going to be forgiving if they like what you're producing. I mean, but if you ever want to get to a larger audience, you have to start cleaning those things up. I mean, let's face it, especially now if you're making video. Putting that cell phone video on YouTube is one thing, but now when I go watch it on my Apple TV or I watch it on my iPad, I notice those imperfections a lot more. So if you're going to eventually get more mainstream, you want to get bigger, you really got to think about the quality of stuff. I wish you didn't have to worry about it, you know? I really wish you didn't. I mean, I've been blogging for 8 years now, you know, and I know I'm glad the stuff I used to put out is gone, you know, because I had a database crash and I lost it. And I'm kind of glad about that because I wouldn't want some of that stuff out there. It's a balancing act. Some people, you know, they love having the warts out there in the past because it makes their new stuff look great. I don't know.
And on that note,
I don't know. Warts. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much to everybody who came out tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun, guys.
Our pleasure. And if you didn't get it from his little intro, we know CC to be a very dedicated father, so we appreciate you taking time away from your family as well to visit our country. So you know, there's still some time to network. I would encourage you to do that. There are a few of our sponsors here tonight. Joe Thornley, who brought Third Tuesdays to Canada, by the way, and who's our mentor, is here tonight. So I'd encourage you to speak with Joe and Carol Levine, if she's still here. I'm sorry I didn't see her. Yes, she is in the back. From Energy PR is here as well. I'm here from HKDP. If you ever want to talk to me or talk to me about Third Tuesdays, that's great. So thanks to everybody for a great evening. I think we went over a lot of material, and hopefully everybody was inspired to keep talking now that the official presentation is over. So thanks, Cece.
And if you don't get to say hi or whatever tonight, I mean, I'm the most approachable guy on the planet, so email me, Twitter me, whatever. You know, please, and I'll try to respond as quick as I can. Nudge me if I don't. And
speaking of Twitter, I don't have the exact quote because I don't have my iPhone, but somebody said, watching Ustream have an audience member on Ustream ask CC Chapman a question about a tweet that Scott Monty made is a little too meta for me.
Nice.